The border tensions between India and China have a long history, with various conflicts and disputes over territorial claims. The most recent major confrontation between the two countries occurred in 2020. Here's a brief background and an overview of the after-effects. Border disputes. The border disputes between India and China primarily revolve around two regions, the western sector, Aksai Chin, and the eastern sector, Arunachal Pradesh. Both sides have differing perceptions of the line of actual control, LAC, which serves as the de facto border. 1962 Sino-Indian War. The most significant conflict between the two nations was the 1962 Sino-Indian War, which resulted in a Chinese victory. India lost territory in Aksai Chin and faced a significant setback in its relations with China. Peaceful coexistence. After the war, India and China focused on maintaining peace along the border and improving diplomatic relations. Several agreements were signed, including the 1993 Agreement on the Maintenance of Peace and Tranquility along the LAC. Galwan Valley Clash. In June 2020, a violent clash erupted between Indian and Chinese troops in the Galwan Valley, resulting in casualties on both sides. This incident led to heightened tensions and a military standoff between the two countries. Pangong Lake Dispute. Another flashpoint was the Pangong Lake region, where Indian and Chinese forces had been engaged in face-offs. The situation escalated as both sides deployed additional troops, leading to a standoff. Diplomatic engagement. Both India and China engaged in diplomatic talks to de-escalate tensions and find a resolution to the border dispute. Multiple rounds of negotiations were held at various levels, including military and diplomatic channels. Disengagement and de-escalation. Eventually, both countries agreed to disengage and de-escalate troops from the Pangong Lake region in February 2021. The disengagement process involved creating buffer zones and pulling back forces. Border infrastructure development. The conflict prompted India to expedite its border infrastructure development, including road construction and the deployment of additional troops and equipment along the border regions. Bilateral relations. The India-China border conflict strained bilateral relations between the two countries. Trade and economic ties were affected, and there was an increased focus on enhancing India's strategic partnerships with other nations. Strategic realignment. The conflict also had geopolitical implications, with India strengthening ties with countries like the United States, Japan, and Australia under the framework of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, Quad. This development aimed to balance China's influence in the region. Ongoing disputes. While the disengagement process eased tensions in some areas, the border disputes between India and China remain unresolved. Both sides continue to maintain a significant military presence along the LAC, and the situation remains sensitive and unpredictable.